Becky, is it possible to turn off these tones when people come in or go out?
Yes, Steve, I believe so. Let me do that.
Okay, thanks.
Today at our Value Summit, we gathered together as a group to come up with a set of values for the university so that we could have these values for years to come and define those values as a set of our operational behaviors for us to live by, to work by, and today at our Value Summit, we gathered together as a group to come up with.
So Becky, I'll go ahead and try it from my computer. And everyone, thank you for your patience. We're working out our kinks today. I'll share this video. We'll see if the volume works. If not, we won't let this slow us down and we'll keep going. So bear with me just a minute, please.
Today at our Value Summit, we gathered together as a group to come up with a set of values for the university so that we could have these values for years to come and define those values as a set of our operational behaviors for us to live by, to work by, and to guide our students, faculty, and staff by every day.
We are also getting perspective from everywhere we can here in San Angelo, students, staff, faculty, community members. So that's pretty exciting knowing that they value our values and our perspective.
So I don't want to be grandiose about it, but I kind of want to be grandiose about it. We're sitting down and we're writing out our declaration as a university. There's this ideal RAM family and RAM culture, but it's not something that has been explicitly defined. And I think these values we were able to come up with these past couple of days, I think it helps better define what that is and brings us together that way.
What these core values will give us is an opportunity to set the standard for each professor and each student to know that they have goals and a commitment level that they have to make not only to themselves, but the university as well.
I think I'd like to see some changes made, some emphasis put onto what these values we chose are, because I think they were chosen for a purpose. Integrity was one that just showed up fun, and I think people do crave that type of honesty from administration, from one another, but also the idea that we should care about one another. I think that's something to focus on.
I hope to see that every student understands that they have the ability to have open communication with their professors and the other faculty members here at Angelo State. I want them to know that if they have integrity and they have commitment, that they will be given the same values and commitments from their professors as well as faculty here at Angelo State.
I would really like to see the university come together as a whole to develop a set of core values that we can develop into our behaviors that we can live every day, not only in our work life, but in our home life. And I want to see those set of core values developed through generations to come.
I believe we are in a time of unprecedented changes right now in our country, in our community, state, local levels. There's many changes going on, so I feel like you, especially with the new president, General Hawkins, he wants to adapt to changing times. And I feel that's very important because we can't stay to hold traditional values forever. We have to adapt to newer times and not be less of the past.
You're not a part of the process, you don't have a voice in the process. And so I highly recommend if you know somebody that works at ASU, you have a student that goes to ASU, or you can work at ASU, that you go talk to people. You send these emails, because if you think something is valuable and needs to be heard, then it needs to be heard. So that can get filtered into this conversation, because at the end of the day, the worst thing that can happen is violence.
Hello, everyone. Last month, 75 team members consisting of faculty, staff, students, and community members met in the C.J. Davidson to hold a two-day values summit. President Hawkins gave us our charge to begin the journey to create a sustainable values-based culture that will serve as our foundation as we move forward towards our upcoming centennial in 2028. Good afternoon. I'm Flor Leos Madero, chair of the recently formed ASU Values Council, and I serve alongside of Joel Sefcik and Sam Spooner. We are here today because we really do want your input. So the agenda will begin with me giving you the background of our survey results and the summit. Then I will hand it over to Steve Soslin, Chief People Officer for Texas Tech System. Reminders, you have an opportunity to give us feedback. The chat is open. So please feel free to start putting your comments there. Also, please know this town hall is being recorded and it will be available on our Values Journey website. So let's begin with our survey results. First, let me give you the background that allowed us to have this successful summit. Dr. Krista Kreitler briefed the group on the results of the Reason Culture Survey, where many of you provided us the feedback. You can see it here. You gave us your perception of the current values, where you think we stand. Here you can see some of those results. As you can see, we have a lot to be proud of at Angelo State. Very positive descriptors. However, we can also see that there are some that may not be so positive. Maybe some descriptors that we were submitted, they're the ones that we are in need of change, perhaps something that needs to be given some attention, and you can see them here in red. But you also gave us, in the next slide, some of the things that you want to change. So you can see during the summit, we looked at these characteristics that you identified as the ideal culture for the Ram fam. We discussed the fact that our goal is not a culture transformation, but a culture renovation instead. So we were presented with this analogy of a 93-year-old home, which happens to be the age of our school, and all the great things that an older home brings, right? So we don't want to renovate it. We don't want to tear it down and start from scratch. An older home has great structure. It has character. It has history. It has great things. We don't want to lose any of it. What we want to do is just renovate it in ways that enhance its natural appeal, its value, its worth. And that's the goal. So on the next slide, we see that there were keywords that emerged repeatedly in our summit discussions. What we did during the summit, we split into small groups to identify three things: our own personal core values, number two, those that we all shared, and then number three, the values that we share that we also want as part of our collective culture. And these things kept coming up as we were having discussions. So what we identified were these 5 values that you will see on the flyer. These are the values for ASU to build upon as we move towards the centennial. We identified them, but we also identified desired behaviors that will help us recognize when we're actually living those values. So I want to encourage you to please go to the top of the chat and download a copy of this flyer for the session. It will come in handy as we have a discussion. And now I'm going to introduce you to Steve Sosland, who facilitated our Value Summit. So a little bit about Steve, if you have not had the pleasure of meeting him yet. He is a professional disruptor. That's who he is. Organizations hire or consult with him when they want to renovate culture-based, their cultures based on their core values and their team members. He is an alumnus of the United States Military Academy at West Point, of Boston University, and the University of Texas at Dallas. He brings a successful track record from 5 different industries, including higher education. He joined the Texas Tech University system January 2018, where he serves as the Chief People Officer for the system's 4 universities in West Texas and beyond. So I will hand it now over to Steve, who will guide us through the rest of the town hall.
Terrific. Thanks for the kind words and introduction. So everybody has the flyer, and hopefully you can download that where you have it in front of you. What I want to do is talk about how we're going to proceed to get your input. So the first thing I want to show you is the criteria that we're going to use in order to get your input. And it's important to understand that the 75 people came together, worked really, really hard in your behalf. Now, some of you are actually on this call that participated. Some of you may have heard about this, But at the end of a day and a half, people were really tired because they had spent a lot of intellectual energy in terms of thinking about how could we update, how could we renovate, as Flor said, our culture in a way that honors our tradition, honors our 93-year-old history, but still brings things that are fresh. So where we're going next is we've got the values and we've got icons for those values that are on your flyer. Those are going to remain the same. Where we need your help is on the definitions and the exact wording of that. And in particular, on the right-hand side, in those bullet points for the specific behaviors. Here's what we'd like to do. We're going to get your input. We're going to gather that together. And we've got a team. And that team consists of the 3 members of the Values Council that Flor introduced, plus Becky Bracken and Brittany Miller from Communications and Marketing, and Angela Brown, who I work closely with at the Texas Tech System. And we will collate all of your comments. We'll put those together and we will make the edits that follow these 4 criteria. So we want to make sure we honor the work that was done at the summit. And we do know that some of our sentences and the clauses that make up the behaviors are a little bit wordy. We may be able to make those more clear and concise. Sometimes we'll find something that by editing it, it actually gives us a higher standard than what we originally wrote at the summit. And then if anything happens to be offensive or exclusive, it was unintentional, but that's where we need your input, because you may see something or catch something that others missed. And I'll give you an example of that as we get into the specific language. So let's look at what the values are. I'm going to quickly run through it. Then I'm going to stop the presentation and we'll have our discussion and get your input. So with integrity, here's the definition that we developed at the summit. And then here are the 4 behaviors. And one of these behaviors is where we know we need to make a change. And I'll go over that when we get to the next section. So that's integrity. Let's keep going and we'll look at significance. What you'll notice with significance as we go through these behaviors is that the team did a great job of getting clear and concise. So in this case, we'll want to make sure that we've got the language where we want it, and it could be that we add something to this one. Probably not a whole lot of room to get more concise. So for diversity and inclusion, this is the opposite. This is where we could use your help in being able to say, can we reduce the number of words without losing any of the meaning? And these are powerful behaviors that would cause us to act in a certain way. So let's go into community. And with community, we have 5 behaviors. And then finally, commitment. And 5 behaviors again. Okay, so just a reminder, this is what we'll use in order to make the edits. But let's have an open discussion of this. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. We'll come back in a few minutes. And bear with me. Okay. So let's open it up. What I'd like for all of you to do, please, is to go ahead and grab your flyers. And let's go through this. And we're going to be looking for input. Now we can get the input in a couple different ways. You can put it in the chat, and you can also just unmute and speak up. I've also asked for the members of the Values Council, Angela and Becky and Brittany and Patrick Deersky is on the call as well, to just give input at any time. So we really want your feedback. Also, I'm sorry about the video. We will we'll work out our kinks before we have the next town hall meeting and figure out what happened there. But a lot of credit goes to the team that put the video together as well. So let's go ahead and move on. If you look at integrity, then we've got a current definition that says uncompromising dedication to honesty and respect to ensure a solid foundation. What comments do you have that might help us to have a more clear definition or that would meet the criteria that we've discussed? Okay, not seeing any.
I'll pop in.
Please.
Sorry, this is Ruben Tobias, and I was trying to do my video here. Okay, there, I'm alive. Hey, how are you doing? I don't know. I think it's good. I think you can actually probably take off. You can end the definition at respect. In all honesty, just keeping it uncompromising dedication to honesty and respect. I mean, to ensure a solid foundation, I mean, that almost seems like it could be assumed, right?
Yeah.
I would make that argument, which would allow you to condense it.
So let me just ask for pushback the other way. Is there anybody that sees this differently than Ruben? We see several, Casey and Katie, that agree. Okay. Tracy, Rebecca. Okay. Kimberly. Terrific. So Ruben, thank you. That's exactly the kind of input that we want to move forward with. And in the end, Ruben, I frankly concur with you that I don't think people would remember to ensure a solid foundation as long as we understand that that's what the purpose of these values are. All of the values are going to establish that solid foundation that we're going to build our culture on. And so it's not just integrity that has a solid foundation, but it's all of the values, and it will be how we tell that story. So as we move forward, Rebecca, please, or for all of us, just please go ahead and we'll continue with those thoughts. Let's go down the behaviors. Lead with character and humility. Anything there that we would want to update? And let me pause for just a minute and ask Scarlett. Scarlett, would you put on your video and go ahead and unmute? And I didn't see your question, but if you would go ahead and ask it live, we can address it.
Hi, thank you. Actually, I went through the document and submitted that in the forms, just some pieces of feedback. So I'm not sure if that actually reached anybody or if I need to, oh, Flora is saying yes.
Yeah.
I just don't want to be redundant. I don't want to speak. I'm sorry, go ahead.
So Scarlett, we have a choice here, and yes, we did receive it, and thank you very much because it was obvious that you put a lot of thought and time into this. So we can do it one of two ways. We are going to use your comments when we meet together to edit, or if you want to just talk live so we can have that interaction today, if you'll just bring it up with each of your comments. By the way, I don't have it in front of me, so I'll need you to just remind us, or Flora can, when we get to one of your comments, go ahead and say it here.
Sure, I appreciate that. Thank you. When it comes up, I will certainly speak up. Thank you.
Yeah, and Scarlett, your input, like everyone here, is incredibly valuable. This, by the way, our goal is to get input from 350 to 500 members of the RAM family before we feel like we can go live, and we'd like to do that by April 30th. So, it's going to be important for us to be able to hear that. Okay. The second behavior is be transparent. Yes.
Sorry, I just had a question. This is Kaylee.
Hey, Kaylee.
It says lead with character and humility. I'm wondering if lead doesn't need to be there, because I think even those that are not in like a leader role or doing something that's not in a leading perspective should still act in this type of manner.
Okay, so let me clarify then. So your perception is that with the word lead, it may it gives the perception that that's only for leaders versus for everybody on the team.
Yeah, because I think our students, even whenever they're not in that kind of role in their student organization or in the classroom, still should act with integrity.
Okay. So, by the way, Becky, I may need your help in tracking the chat because I'm focused on Kaylee right now. I want to say this in explanation that at the summit, we talked about the role that every summiter, everybody at the summit, and frankly, everybody on the call today, that we all have a leadership role in the values journey. But now listening to you, Kaylee, I can see where that it may not be clear in the way we have this worded. So do you have an alternate word that you would recommend?
I didn't, but Katie in the comments said act with, which I think might be better for sure.
I agree. I think that's a good substitution.
Okay. Okay, so act with as opposed to lead. And then there is a comment, I missed it, but somewhere in there was about changing the word humility. Do one of you see that?
Yes, it's suggesting instead of humility, would the word humble be more accurate?
And we had a discussion about humility versus humble. Does anybody remember that? Okay. All right, so let's take act with before lead. Your thoughts on act with from the group?
I kind of think that act is kind of a subjective type fuzzy word for me. I like where it's going. I think maybe when we say lead, there could be a potential population of people who discredit everything after that because they say I'm not in a leadership position. So I do feel like there needs to be a little bit of a more encompassing word. But act, just for me, kind of feels a little fuzzy. Like, do we need to do we define what act means? I think if we get down into that. So those are just my thoughts with the word act.
Dr. Salisbury in the comments said live with.
Okay. So here's what we'll do. We will take this forward, and the idea, because this is the first of several town hall meetings. How many do we have scheduled right now?
9 total, 3 face-to-face and 6 virtual.
So we're going to take this forward, and we're going to keep searching for a better word, and we will bring up live with and act with, and we'll see, and we'll bring up your thoughts, Kaylee, on the perception of using lead, so that we can get broad input for this. But this is exactly what we need. We need to bring up the issues. Let's go on to the next one and be transparent in motive, communication, and action.
Can I ask just a clarifying question real quick? So you have the definition and then the other ones are the actions, right? The goal is to trim it down. So the actions, it's almost like they don't have to be full sentences, right? So like if you go, if we follow the example of uncompromising dedication to honesty and respect, and then it's like, well, what are the actions? It would just be maybe like whether it's act or through character and humility, and then just transparency in all aspects or something. I mean, so that's what we're doing?
Yes. Ruben, thank you for asking the clarifying question. So what we want is something it's frankly, in the end, once we have a final document and now we start referencing them in our daily lives, the behaviors become the most important thing to focus on in the whole document. Because what we've got a value that hopefully you've looked at this and said, wow, that's who I am. If we did a good job at the summit, all of you would look at this and say, after we go through this, that all of these values are the person that I am. It's the person I aspire to be at work. And I will be true to my own values if I'm living these. But then we have to ask the question, what does it mean to live a value? Well, to live a value means that our behaviors, the actions, the way we treat each other is in line with what these specific things that we're writing down. It doesn't mean anybody has to be perfect doing it every day, but it does mean that every one of us, when we come to work, we're aspiring to live these behaviors and act this way. And if so, then the behaviors are the proof that we're living that value. Ruben, does that clear it up? In terms of the format, what seems to work best is to start with an action verb and then to have enough in here that it's clear. But if there's redundancies or words, then we can eliminate, just like you did when you recommended to delete to ensure a solid foundation. We didn't need that. And I haven't lost, Jen, I haven't lost the point you had on humble versus humility. So we'll make sure we're looking at that as well for Jan. Thanks. Okay, how about this second bullet? I want to make sure that we make our time. Be transparent in motive, communication, and action. Okay, I'm going to move on. Take responsibility for words and choices.
Steve, I was just going to mention that Scarlett put some other verbs in the chat there.
Terrific. And Scarlett, is that for instead of lead, or was that for a different bullet?
Yes, I'm sorry. That was for instead of lead.
Okay, great. This is terrific. And so we've got a lot of people that are taking notes on this. So Brittany, if you can help us capture that as well, I'd appreciate it. Okay, and then finally, demonstrate strength through unity of purpose. Okay, this is one we've got to come clean on. If we read these words and we take them in the context of what we're trying to do here, my perception when we first said this at the summit for the group that was working on it, I thought that's really powerful. But then fortunately, we had somebody that who researches by profession and went to work and researched this line because something just didn't feel right for her. And she sent us something, I think, Flor, wasn't it even the same day as the summit or the next day? She sent us something. She said, you know what? Part of this phrase has been used by a hate group. And it's kind of been hijacked. So we've got to look at the wording on this. And this is an example that when we look at our criteria, that we want to remove any potential offensive or exclusive language. And just the fact that one person has associated this with something that's not positive should be an indicator that we should change it. So does anybody have something that would capture the idea but change the words?
Ruben, you put through transparent action. Was that for this part or was that for something else?
No, it was for the second bullet, the second actives. I was just thinking notes and I'm just putting them on there since we're going to take notes, just kind of modifying that. I think your point, sorry, I think Steve, your point about this or y'all's observation about that is really key. That might be hard to change this one, or how, because you would read it and it sounds good, but if the last thing you want is to have a bad association.
Right. Hey, Flor, do you happen to have in front of you, the input I gave you initially from a student employee at the system who looked at this? So with Angela and I working at the Texas Tech system, we have some student workers, and one of them happens to be a journalism major. So I asked her to look at the initial draft, and she found some different wording for this last bullet. I just don't have it in front of me. But I'll pull that up and we'll take a look at it. It was from Darby, D-A-R-B-E-Y, and we'll look at that. Does anybody? Okay, so Scarlett has a suggestion: unite together to strengthen the institution's goals and mission. Do we need the institution? Could we even put the word our?
Yes, I just was kind of a jumping off point there. But it could be, you know, I mean, it could be broad enough to encompass, I don't know, just kind of plays differently on those words because I completely agree. I with the original statement. But I like what I really like, what resonates with me about that statement is being stronger together. I like uniting diverse population of people. I mean, there's some things in that statement that are really powerful and really proper for this integrity piece. So I don't know. I'd like to see us keep pieces of them, but I agree. I think there is something a little bit off-putting with the actual statement there.
Yeah. And Sam, do you remember? I think it was unity of purpose was the phrase that we needed to change.
That's correct, sir.
Yeah. So Scarlett, your wording actually works for that. And then Casey has unified a strengthened purpose. Okay, let's move forward and we'll go on. We've got 27 minutes left. So let's go to significance. And remember, on significance, we've got this concise. So the question is there anything to add or is there anything to change?
I think this is the best example of what we're trying to achieve. I mean, I wouldn't change anything. It's clear, concise, and that's how the rest of them should sort of look, right? Because I think the ultimate goal would be that you could almost recite this because it's so short and concise, each one, versus trying to memorize longer sentences. Even though they're good, it's just, we're trying to create a message, right? And have everybody be able to, if you ask them, hey, what are our values? Oh, it's this, this, and that. And through what actions? This, and this.
Okay, good. And I do want to tell you that the word significance, because one person commented on they weren't sure of what we meant by significance. The definition is supposed to actually define it, but there is something missing here. And if you look at the icon, and what I think you can understand the story that Ronnie Hawkins told at the summit. So we have these two parts of our life. One is where we're focused on success, and the other is significance. Success are the accomplishments that we have that we gain for ourselves. But the point in our life when we're focused on significance is what we're doing for others, what we're doing for the organization and for other people. And so significance is really, well, one way, and this comes from a book by a guy named David Brooks, who wrote The Road to Character. He says that when we're focused on success, we're building our resume. When we're focused on significance, we're building our eulogy. How will we be remembered for our life's work? And I'll tell you, I've done a lot of values journeys with a lot of organizations. Nobody's ever done this before with significance. And I've never read it when I've read about other organizations. So this is really powerful. It's unique to ASU. It sets you apart. And unless we have a reason to change, let's move on, because this is a really powerful one.
And Steve, the only thing that was mentioned by Brandy Hawkins was for embrace complexities. She recommended embrace opportunities, just to capture that.
What's the difference?
I don't know if there was a difference. That's what she recommended at the time. I just want to pass that on.
She gave us in writing, right? Is Brandy on right now? Okay. All right, let's put that down as an option then, Brittany, please. And embrace opportunities versus embrace complexities. For this group, does anybody feel strongly one way or the other? If so, just type the one word in the chat that you like, complexity versus opportunity. Thanks, Tracy. Scarlett, okay. Good, thanks. Let's move to diversity and inclusion. This is very rich in content. Embrace and invest in our differences. And the term invest was really deliberate, that not only are we going to embrace our differences, but we want to invest in those in that as well. Okay, the first bullet, encourage a culture of acceptance, participation, and belonging through opportunity. Anything to do there? Ruben, I'm kind of channeling you here. Do we need through opportunity at the end? Do we
I
lose
was going to
anything?
say, Hawkins did suggest that we take out through opportunity. Another one of her suggestions through her input.
Does anybody have an issue with that? Anybody want to push back on that?
What about potentially swapping out encourage and saying build? Make it more deliberate.
Yeah, that is an example of raising the standard or behavior, because encourage is a little bit more passive. Builds encourages more action. So the recommendation then would be build a culture of acceptance, participation, and belonging.
Yes.
Okay.
Somebody, yeah, somebody asked, do we need a culture of?
Good point. So build acceptance, participation, and belonging.
Casey Pace, yeah. Do we need a culture of? So again, to make it more concise.
So Katie, would you unmute and turn your camera on, and then just, would you read what you would like to see there, please? Just read it out loud and let us hear it, please. Is that Katie or who?
Casey.
Katie, but I think
sorry,
you meant Casey.
Pace. Casey Pace, please.
Yeah, it worked better with encourage, I think, but since you changed it to build, a culture of would fit better. I was just thinking more.
Okay.
This whole.
So either encourage acceptance, participation, and belonging, or build a culture of acceptance, participation, and belonging.
Yeah, because I see the whole thing being our culture, our core values. This is our culture on paper. So I was just trying to think of ways to make it shorter.
Yeah, that's really good. And Scarlett, the answer is we should be trying to put behaviors here that we can measure. All right, so create and nurture a safe environment for the sharing of ideas and constructive feedback. Is there any way to make that more concise without losing meaning? And by the way, for Rebecca and Scarlett, we are going to be talking about the accountability piece of this, and that's part of our next steps on measurement and accountability. I don't want to take away from today's discussion, but I'd love for the two of you to be part of our discussion on accountability. Okay.
You could probably just, I mean, I don't think you need to say create and nurture. You could just say create a safe environment, or develop. I mean, I don't think you need the two extra words at the front.
What if you take away create and put nurture?
Just nurture a safe environment. Yeah, I mean, that would work as well.
Do we lose any meaning? In other words, if we don't have the environment we want right now, if we put nurture, do we still need create, or can we put nurture and
Well, I think you could argue that we don't have to create it because technically we have an environment like that already, right? So it would be either nurture or foster, right? I mean, so we have that space. That's part of who we are. So I think the create is not there, because that would assume that we don't have that environment. And I would argue that we have an environment that way, but we're trying to be better.
And Scarlett, would you push back on that, please?
Yeah, I think when we talk about creating, and I agree, Ruben, too, with you, but we don't ever want to operate under the assumption that we have a climate that meets everybody's needs. And so climate can be defined by, I mean, from the most micro level to the most macro level. So I would say that we can assume that we have a climate. I mean, a safe environment, but I think we're going to have to create that environment, or at least present that idea that we will create an environment, a safe environment for whoever needs it.
Okay. Let me ask you, thanks for that, and we'll take that forward. Let me ask another question. If you look at the words "for the sharing of," what if we say "to share"? That at least eliminates letters. It doesn't in a couple words. So if we just said, we'll resolve, create, and nurture a safe environment to share ideas and constructive feedback. Do we lose anything? Okay. So Brittany, if you can capture that for us. Okay. Next, listen to understand and empower courageous and honest communication. What about that one? Okay, Scarlett likes it. Let's move forward. And again, I'm just watching time. Advocate for empathy, fair treatment of others, and mutual respect. So the verb is advocate. Empathy, fair treatment. Yes.
I'm sorry, from Brandy Hawkins again. She suggested removing of others and adding for all at the end. So for it to read, advocate for empathy, fair treatment, and mutual respect for all.
That sounds good.
Okay. Others, what do you think?
Mine says I like
Thank you,
that.
Michael. Tracy. Okay, Donna, thank you. Well, Kaylee asks, do we have to say for all? Advocate for empathy, fair treatment, and mutual respect. So does for all add to it? And Susan, can you help us on this one? When you say agree, are you agreeing to omit for all?
Hello, no, I was agreeing to include it. I think
Okay.
in terms of inclusivity for all, kind of is an important way to end that sentence.
Okay. So let's write for all and then put a question mark to get input on that, and we'll move forward with it.
But you're removing of others, right? By including that?
That's what we're saying. We're saying advocate for empathy, fair treatment, and mutual respect, and then whether or not we use for all.
Okay.
Community, collaborate to develop an inclusive sense of place and purpose. Okay, engage in cross-collaborative teamwork.
That was perfect.
All right, there's a question, Katie, or I'm assuming you're talking. Katie, if you don't mind just unmuting, and are you talking about the definition for community?
Yes, I'm wondering, since we cover that in the previous item, it does remove some meaning from this, but I was trying to figure out a way to shorten this phrasing a little bit.
Mm-hmm. So collaborate to develop a sense of place and purpose?
Possibly, although that kind of screws up with the meaning a little bit.
Yeah, but can I tell you, it's really good that you're asking the question. So, and this is the kind of input we need just to get it out there and verbalize differently and see if okay. So right now we'll leave it alone, but if you think of another word, let us know, okay? So let's go to the second bullet, serve others and extend genuine acknowledgement and recognition. I want to ask a question. Do we need to serve others? If we put extend genuine acknowledgement and recognition to others, which or do we leave it as is?
Sincere acknowledgement and recognition. Yeah, I think actually what you said, but putting it to others at the end makes more sense.
Okay, we'll get input from others on that as we go forward. Support students throughout recruitment, education, and graduation as they become productive members of their communities. Flora, didn't we have a comment on this one also?
We had a couple. I think this is the one where Scarlett, you had some input on this one, and also we have some from Brandy Hawkins on this one. Brandy suggests support students through recruitment, education, and graduation, promoting their development, and then taking away
As they become, okay.
And leaving it as development as productive members of their communities.
So say the whole thing again, please, Flora.
Support students through recruitment, education, and graduation, promoting their development as productive members of their communities.
Okay. Good. And Flora, did you have an alternative?
I have a comment on this one. This is Katie.
Yeah, Katie.
It seems a touch lengthy and a little bit duplicative of our mission and some other things. So I wonder if, and this might be taking too much off, if we can't just say support students, because a lot of this really starts to get more into the mission statement. And if we're differentiating between values and mission, it seems like it might be redundant.
What about if you put something like support students throughout their journey at ASU, which is basically kind of the life cycle. I was thinking life cycle, but that might have a weird connotation, but.
I also think that we're a community of ourselves and those outside of ASU. So I was thinking more, I put it in the chat, but support others as they become productive. And I couldn't think of a word, so I said citizens. I don't really like it, but we're also helping each other as we advance in our own and community members. I mean, hosting high school graduations is partially retention, but it's also helping them. I don't know.
Okay, so this is one where we're going to need some work. If you think of other things in wording for this one, please send it along to Brittany. Who do you want to receive this? Do we post this on the website, or how do we do that?
Say, well, the feedback, we're taking notes, so we won't have that posted. This conversation will be posted on the website. Right. So, but
if anybody has additional comments on this, then let's try to capture that. And we can get that out to everyone. Okay.
Becky, hold on, Steve. Becky also noted there's values@angelo.edu, that email address, if you want to send it to there.
Let's do that. So if you think of the wording that you'd like, let's just email it to values@angelo.edu. Thank you for that, Becky. All right, the fourth bullet is cultivate meaningful relationships through intentional acts of kindness. And finally, respond to relevant community needs. Okay, so let's go to the last value is commitment, intentional dedication to our responsibilities, our goals, and those we serve. And the first bullet, sorry, did somebody have a comment on the definition? Okay. The first bullet, embrace and uphold the university mission and vision. Let me go back. If we change the last bullet under integrity to unite together to strengthen our goals and mission, does this seem redundant or is this complementary? embrace and uphold the university mission and vision.
Can you repeat that redundant as to which one?
Yeah, it's not on your sheet, but we talked about perhaps changing that last bullet under integrity.
Mm-hmm.
The one that we said we needed to change. What I wrote down was unite together to strengthen our goals and mission.
Yeah, if you change it, I don't think you need to have the other one here.
Embrace and uphold university mission and vision. Do we take this idea from commitment and where we had unite together to strengthen our goals and mission, do we put unite together to strengthen our vision and mission? Or leave it as goals?
Do we have a vision statement currently?
So President Hawkins is about to roll one out. So you will.
Something to think about, Steve. If we look at the unite under integrity, that may end up moving to commitment. Unite together would be a commitment, not necessarily something to think about.
And actually, that was one of the recommendations from Darby, the student worker. When she had recommended changing it, she also recommended moving it to commitment. So Sam, that could be an idea that we just take that rewrite and we put it down at commitment, and then instead of that first bullet, we actually replace the first bullet under commitment with unite together to strengthen our vision and mission. Does that make sense? Or vision, mission, and goals. Okay, we'll look at that. Second bullet, encourage healthy, constructive conflict.
This is where Brandy said she suggested debate instead of conflict.
And I think we put that down as an alternative, but I would tell you that one of the earmarks of a healthy organization is the ability to have healthy conflict. And this comes from Pat Lencioni's book, The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. And it's something we're going to be rolling out in the leader development programs that we're going to have at ASU. So we're going to be talking a lot about conflict. And Katie, have you read that book, by the way?
No, but I've read some similar stuff, and I worry that debate kind of takes the it takes the wind out of what we're trying to get at here.
Yeah. So we're talking about conflict of ideas, that we disagree, but learning how to bring people who disagree, which is a diverse team of people, together and work through the conflict in a way that is built on trust, and that after the conflict, we actually trust each other more. And we have and this falls under commitment because it's working through conflict that gives us more commitment. And that's part of the understanding of what Lencioni means by this.
Okay. I think this is one where Scarlett had said, she had made a comment about we want to encourage conflict. We want to encourage maybe conflict resolution. Was one of the comments from Scarlett.
So again, I want to be careful about stepping out of my role of facilitator, and I'm not trying to trump anybody's ideas. But I would tell you that in what
it was somebody else. I don't know who.
Okay, what we're trying to do is actually, the intent here is to actually encourage conflict. That it's through conflict that we can grow. And just a personal anecdote, I've never learned anything from somebody I totally agree with. I would much rather be around people that see things differently. That's what we're trying to build, is my understanding from the team, the commitment team. By the way, Brittany, was this your team? Whose team was commitment?
I believe that was Megan's.
Okay, and Sam, you were on there then, right?
That was Megan, yeah.
Okay. So
Hey,
your
Steve,
thoughts, Sam?
No, I agree with you on the conflict. Kaylee made a good point in the chat in that it's also potentially listed under diversity and inclusion under the sharing of ideas. It may be duplicate. I didn't want to pass that over.
Okay, let's make sure we look at that. So we've got 3 bullets in 2 minutes. So if you're okay, let's go to the third one. Advocate self-reflection and continual institutional renewal. New book by Adam Grant. If anybody's seen him, he's on faculty at Wharton, that talks about rethinking and the importance of this idea of institutional renewal.
I think this bullet advocates self-reflection. Well, advocating self-reflection sounds to me very similar to holding each other accountable, or not holding, but to being accountable, right? Whether it's individually or for others. So you may be able to mix those or not, but I do think that institutional renewal, a continual institutional renewal is important, but when I think of self-reflection, I think of accountability, but maybe there's some separation to that.
Okay, and where do we have accountability? The last one.
At the last one.
Okay.
On this, we did have a suggestion of, instead of renewal, improvement.
Okay. Advocate self-reflection, continual institutional improvement. So continual improvement, continuous improvement, Kaizen is a powerful concept. Okay, let's write that as an alternative. And then build a foundation of trust. Again, this goes to that model. And Sam, I think it was one of our breakout sessions, I actually drew the model, didn't I? Of the pyramids. I think that's what we're saying. And in that pyramid that leads to it's trust, build a foundation of trust, then we can work on the fear of conflict and get through that.
Right.
Which leads to commitment. Okay, and hold ourselves and each other accountable is the fourth. So it's trust, conflict, commitment, and accountable. So that's where that goes. So why don't we look at the advocate self-reflection, and we'll wrestle with that one with the hold ourselves and each other accountable.
On that one, another suggestion I was going to make was you could almost get rid of this bullet and move it up to the definition. Instead of having intentional dedication, it would be hold ourselves and each other accountable to our responsibilities, goals, and those we serve. You could do something with that.
Terrific. Brittany, did you get that?
I did, yes.
Yeah, thanks very much. Fabulous. And then, so just a reminder, we have all of these, all of your comments are recorded. We've recorded both the chat and your comments live. We do look for any recommendations for improvement. We've got another town hall meeting on Wednesday, another one on Friday, and then we're going to come live. Those are both virtual, and then we're going to be live next week on campus. So feel free to reattend if you'd like. But most importantly, would you please be an advocate for the process? We want 350 to 500 people to participate, so we're really looking to get maximum participation so that everybody understands that they own this in the end. I'm very, very grateful for all of you who attended today, for all of you who spoke out, and thank you. So, Flora, you want to wrap us up and close this out?
Yes, I want to thank everybody for being here. I really hope that you understand how important this is and that your input really is being taken in and that it's going to make a difference. So like Steve said, please spread the word and be our advocates and encourage others to attend. Thank you. The journey is beginning and we are excited. Thank you for being a part of this process.
Terrific. So if the Values Council, Becky, Brittany, and Angela can just stay on for another minute, we'll close out, and Patrick as well, and we'll look at how we can improve for the next one. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.